Is it on now? All righty. How's everybody doing? According to our clock that now works, it is 6:02, so we will get started. So, man, no kid tonight. So I'll call this meeting to order. And let's see, we'll do roll call.
Matthews. Weaver.
Here.
Flood.
Here.
Bolt.
Here.
Rutherford.
Here.
Seahorn.
Here.
Salter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Travis, can you do our invocation tonight?
Please pray with me. Father God, we thank you for today. God, we thank you for the break in weather, and God, in the much needed rain that came our way this weekend. God, I just pray that as we continue to be about the business of this city, God, that you bless our hearts and our minds, God, and our thoughts and our voices. God, help us to think of not only the big things, but the little things, God, that are so important to helping this city grow and be the best that it can be. God, we thank you for the amazing women and men in this room. Help us all, God, to do our best to help Shawnee be the best city that it can be. God, we thank you and we love you. Most of all, we thank you for Jesus. Through his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. Tell me the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, so item one, like always, citizen participation, 3-minute limit. Our city attorney will be our timekeeper, 12-minute limit per topic. We generally will not be responding to anybody. You may hear something in commissioners' comments at the end. So we have, looks like 3 folks that have signed up tonight. First up is Mr. Rob Morris.
How's it going? Tonight, something from the last time, the lake committee discussion. Since we know who didn't put it on the agenda, I'm really curious as to who did specifically. And seeing as how I already know, it'd pretty much be good if we went ahead and just told everybody. Why didn't they want to talk about the committee? What purpose did it serve to put it on there if there was no plan? Well, here's a plan. Lake Committee, advisory to the City Commission, 7 members, 3 from the lake, leaseholder/owner, 3 at large, Shawnee residents, and a ward commissioner. Possible scope and starting term meeting requirements. Scope, address any Oklahoma state law changes pertaining to the lakes in Shawnee City Code, address any other issues related to the immediate Shawnee land and water Twin Lakes area. Meeting schedule, twice a month for 6 months, starting September 1st of this year to March 1st of next year to get state laws and discussion of the commercialization of the Twin Lakes, possibly continuing afterward to meet quarterly or monthly. Committee term links for the members would be the same as everything else. And I remember that Frank Sims said we could possibly do it in 3 months, not 6, so that could obviously be adjusted. However, that took about 20 minutes, and we've had 2 weeks to come up with a plan for the Lake Committee, and I don't see it on the agenda. Next thing. Public officials and social media. Public post dated 30 August 2021 has to do with Shawnee Street, 45th Street. Public officials are not allowed to block or limit who can post or comment on their official pages, and that's been happening by this commission. And yeah, we've got the proof of it. That needs to stop. Case in point, Davis versus Randall, Highkind, I might be mispronouncing, versus Ocasio-Cortez. And just to add something in, Smith versus Wade, 1983. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Davis and Randall ruled that the interactive portion of a public official's Facebook is a public forum, so an official cannot block from it because of the opinions they hold. That's called viewpoint discrimination. You cannot limit who can comment either. It's still infringing on First Amendment rights. There are, however, reasonable restrictions for vulgarity and spam. Next thing, when's the first meeting for this new city manager? When Mr. Allison, Mr. Benson, and everybody's going to meet. I'd like to know when that first meeting is and if everybody's good with it. The cities of service. Half the questions that are on the application, y'all kind of need to answer to us before we apply for the application, because I think there'd be a lot of people interested in those answers. All the restricted listed in the grant RFP guidelines. What is it? What is our plan? Since we're going to apply, we have to already have a plan. The guidelines says a whole lot of stuff we can't spend the money on. So what are we going to spend it on? And lastly, July 19th meeting, first webinar for this was on the 14th, so this could have been talked about on the 19th and at least made people aware, gave them something to look at and research for a couple more weeks. Instead, this is due by next Monday. Next Monday is the deadline for the application, so we have 1 week and we have tonight, take it or leave it. So with that, if y'all need some clarification, I'll be happy to clarify. Otherwise, I think I'm finished. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is Darren Lofton. How you doing, Darren?
All right. I actually wrote down this week what I was going to say. So. Get my glasses here. Good evening to the Shawnee, Oklahoma City Commissioners and to the Mayor. I'm the owner and the president of KS&L Aero. It's a new 26,000 square foot facility at the Shawnee Airport. I'm really happy to be here at this point in which you will consider taking into consideration our proposal to build 2 new restaurants, a rental car center, 8 new hangars, and an engine overhaul facility at the airport, which we believe will bring an additional 100 quality jobs to Shawnee. It took us over a year and nearly $20,000 in engineering drawings, elevations, legal fees, just to get on the agenda at the Airport Advisory Committee at the terminal of the airport, just to be considered to be on the agenda by the City Council. So I really appreciate this point that we're at. We're excited to say that, we've entered into a 40-year agreement with the city, and we've already invested several $1 million to bring jobs and improvement to this community. We're not located in Stroud, Oklahoma, or California. We have no interest in any of those places, despite the fact that the chairman of the Airport Advisory Committee has a multi-million-dollar contract with our main competitor in Stroud. We were still able to get past those problems and to get the opportunity to be put on this agenda, and we appreciate that. We feel that it was a huge step to get past the airport committee, since 2 of our direct competitors are also members of that committee. In some places that would be considered a conflict of interest, but not here in Shawnee. We work together to get things done, and I appreciate that. It's cost us a lot of money and a lot of time to get to this point. So I really hope that you guys would take into consideration our proposals. Maybe give me more than 3 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to talk to you about some of the things that have been said about us and our company, why we're here in Shawnee, what we want to see accomplished in Shawnee, the jobs that we want, the good paying quality jobs we want to bring here to Shawnee. Those are our goals. We're not here to take over Shawnee or anything like that. We just want to bring good quality jobs to Shawnee. We've got a 40-year lease at the airport, and that's a long time. We want to do good things in that 40 years. We want to expand and bring jobs to this town, not the surrounding towns. Our efforts, our focus is here on Shawnee. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Next up is Teresa Burnett. How are you, Teresa?
Thank you guys for giving me some time to speak. I appreciate that. Pretty simple. I am addressing from 2 weeks ago. I was just going to ask if you guys would please, especially during discussions at the end when you guys all are discussing and debating things, if you'd please speak in your mics. It's real hard to hear when you're talking low and we're back there trying to listen. It's also important, too, that you speak in your mics because for whatever reason, I think I understand that the person who usually videos was out of town or something, so the video from the last meeting 2 weeks ago didn't get posted, unless I missed it. I kept checking, but I don't think it got posted. It's very important that that stuff gets up, so I would ask if you guys would please consider, if you know in advance that there's going to be somebody out that normally would do a job like that that's that important, that you'd please plan ahead to make sure that stuff gets up and gets posted. I think you can tell the difference in the number of people here compared to the last meeting. So the situation at the Twin Lakes is very important to people. They were here the last meeting that we had. This place was full, and I don't know that everybody was here for that, but there were a lot of people that were here for that. It matters to people. Knowing what you guys are thinking and saying matters to people, and I'd also like to very respectfully remind you that you guys are stewards of the tax dollars. You are representing the people and the citizens, and I would just ask you to please take that very seriously. Take it very seriously, because when you misuse that position, you are stealing from people. You are stewards, and you represent the people. And I would ask you to take that into consideration. I'm kind of unknowingly, but I'm tag teaming on Rob there about the committee for the Twin Lakes. I think that's very important that you allow the citizens to be able to come together and meet and talk, and people who are engineers. I know a guy spoke a couple of weeks ago, he was an engineer. These things matter. And I'm not for or against the situation at the lake. I am for people having a voice, and for you guys being open and, being open to people and communicating with people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty, item 2 is consider approval of consent agenda. Anybody got anything on that tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
And Darren. All right, we've got a motion and a second. We will call the question. And motion passes 6-0. Item 3 should be presentation animal control. I think we've got there we go. I knew we had a big fierce looking one out there tonight. Holy cow.
Hello, good afternoon.
How are
I'm
you
Justin, and
guys?
this is Brandy. I'm with Animal Welfare. Currently at the animal shelter, we have 26 dogs, 6 of those being puppies, as you can see over here. We have 8 kittens. Sure. We have 8 kittens and 1 pig. The amount of adoptions we've done this last month are 9 dogs, 1 cat, 1 has gone to a rescue, and we've had 7 reclaims over the past month. We also are having an adoption event this weekend on the 7th, Saturday, from 8 to noon, and we're calling it Dog Days of Summer.
Nice.
It'll be $5 to adopt.
So how old is this one?
Is
Do we-
Mia. So Mia is about 6 weeks old.
Yeah.
So of course she's not, oh, sorry. Mia is about 6 weeks old. She's of course not old enough to be spayed or neutered yet. So she would require an additional $25 deposit for that and a prepaid rabies vaccination.
Wow. Really neat. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Item 4, consideration to allow staff to submit an application for a Love Your Block grant from Johns Hopkins City of Service. And I believe Sarah's name is up. How are you doing, Sarah?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, before Sarah starts, let me
Yes,
tell
sir.
you what an extraordinary pleasure it is to work with a professional like Sarah. We dumped a whole pile of requirements on her at the last minute, and she has impressed me.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, this girl works her tail end off. I've always been impressed with her when we've worked.
Thank you. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the Love Your Block grant. This is an impact volunteering grant program provided through Johns Hopkins City of Service program, which supports volunteer-fueled projects that address local public problems. The grant program will focus on helping cities partner with community groups and activate resident volunteers to repair, remediate, or otherwise address blight in their neighborhoods. So the summary of the grant, it's a 2-year grant, and eight cities are awarded this grant. You receive $40,000 in funding for program implementation and volunteer-led mini grant projects, and then $60,000 in funding that supports a local full-time Love Your Block fellow from the community, which is essentially a program administrator. Additionally, on top of that $100,000, they will fund up to 2 AmeriCorps Vista members each year to support city leaders in engaging low-income community members in this work. They provide high-touch consulting services and programmatic support from cities of service, as well as peer-to-peer networking with current and former Love Your Block grantees. The other eligibility requirement is that the city must agree to become an active member in the Cities of Service Coalition. The Cities of Service is a group of cities across the country that helps mayors build stronger cities by changing the way local government and residents work together. We help our coalition cities tap into resident insights, skills, and service to identify and solve critical public problems. With a data-driven focus on creating measurable results, Cities of Service provides counsel, expert technical assistance, and proven resources to city leaders and their staff. We bring coalition members together to share best practices, expand networks, and deepen relationships. So the overview of the actual funding, as I mentioned, you get $60,000, which is $30,000 per year to support the full-time Love Your Block Fellow, and then $20,000 for implementation. And then the 2 AmeriCorps Vista members on top of that, up to 2. It's either 1 or 2. They hadn't determined that, last I heard. The eligible implementation activities are activating vacant lots or empty storefronts buildings, neighborhood cleanups, transforming vacant lots into vibrant community spaces, educational outreach and skill-based support for individuals and community groups, basic code compliance repairs for homes, and compensating local partners. It cannot be used for things like faith-based organizations or block parties. So the application is due August 9th. You receive notification approximately September 1st. Grant agreements are fully executed October 1st through 29th. The Love Your Block Fellow starts November 1st, and the AmeriCorps Vista starts in November at some point. So they intend for you to be able to begin implementing the projects early 2022. So the City of Shawnee's tentative plan is to focus on businesses, residents, and streets south of Independence Street, to partner with community renewal to utilize their existing block leader and We Care team members and neighborhood building model, implement some neighborhood cleanup activities. The actual way that the city decides to implement the mini grants to whether it be businesses or local residents will have to be determined once the actual staff are hired. They'll develop that process. So the City of Shawnee responsibilities are to hire the Love Your Block Fellow. This person can be a contract employee or a full-time employee. If they are a full-time employee, there's an approximate cost to the city of $14,200 per year in benefits and taxes. That the city needs to oversight the Love Your Block Fellow and 1 to 2 Vista members, fiscal oversight, and reporting. And that is essentially the grant.
Okay.
Chair, a couple questions.
Uh-huh.
The $14,000 expense to the city, that's in addition to the grant item that we identified as personnel cost. Is that right?
Yes, the $30,000 per year that goes towards hiring the fellow,
Right.
the fellow can just go for their actual salary. So if we hire them as a full-time employee, then it would be about $14,200 on top of that for benefits, et cetera,
like that,
that the
all
city would be responsible for.
Right.
However, that's not a requirement of the grant. It can be a contract employee.
Last question. Your estimate of our opportunity for success in being,
I've never applied for this one before, so I'm not entirely sure. They said there's about 250, I want to say. I don't quote me on that number, but I think there's about 250 members of the Cities of Service right now. And in the past, they've only opened it to the people who are already members. And so this year's the first year they've opened it up to beyond just those people that were already members of the Cities of Service Coalition. So I don't think they even know how many people are going to apply.
but there's also been a large plus up in funding too, so our chances
Yes.
probably are, that's going to, tide's going to float all boats.
Yes. And also, if we don't try, we're definitely not going to get it.
Thank you again. You did a great job.
Yeah. So typically, a Vista or AmeriCorps member would come with a match from the employer, and this one does not, correct?
Correct. Usually, the way AmeriCorps Vista works is that the AmeriCorps Vista program pays part of their salary and the organization part pays the other part. Through this, John Hopkins, the Cities of Service program, will pay for the entire cost, so there's no cost to the city for the Vista employees.
So possibly
Up to 1 to 2.
Yeah, possibly 2 more employees that would be at no cost to us, and yeah, that's awesome.
Could be working on cleaning up the neighborhood or something.
for
That's really cool. Yes, sir.
Where the city should be doing a lot of what you said would be a goal of this. So there's a lot of things that we ought to be doing that we're not. But you talked about the coalition members. How are those to be determined, selected? Is there any criteria for that of what we'll have
To be a member of the Cities of Service Coalition?
of the local members?
Well, the only requirement for the Cities of Service Coalition is the mayor needs to be on board, and he will have to participate, as well as the Vistas and the fellow would have to participate in their programming, which is like webinars, learning opportunities, to help improve engaging community members, I guess, in this kind of work, is how I see it.
So there's no active participation from any citizens or other
No,
members?
although this is we want the citizens to be involved in kind of determining how we're going to implement this, if that makes sense. Like, there's no requirements for the citizens to be involved in the coalition, but if we get this funding, we want to be able to get citizens to participate and volunteer in helping their neighbors, help determine where we need to focus this, that kind of thing.
And if desired, the commission could designate an advisory committee per se.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And that was the partnership with Community Renewal was to do just that, was to be an intentional avenue into possibly having a conversation with the fellow and being able to go into different neighborhoods that are actively trying to already work to improve and create a better neighborhood, and just be one more tool or resource for that individual to go to neighborhoods that are actively volunteering and working, so that those efforts can even go, be more.
It'll build on kind of what you guys or Community Renewal is already doing. It'll just help fund more of the supplies and tools that are needed to do some of this work.
Right. Awesome.
Anybody got any questions? Comments? Entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we move forward with the application.
I'll second.
So Travis and Darren. All right, we have a motion and a second, so we will call the question. And motion passes 6-0. So we go to item 5, consideration to become a Johns Hopkins City of Service Coalition member. And Sarah's up again.
This just piggybacks off of what I just talked about. The Cities of Service basically requires you to participate in some engagement touch points as a group, such as conference calls or webinars, and the annual convening of Cities of Service partner cities, where they can network and learn from peers. From what I understand it, the annual convening is not a requirement, but they are inviting you to them. But the conference calls and the learning opportunities are required.
Right. And do we know how often those are?
Bi-monthly.
Okay. So it's not a big
No,
commitment.
and
doesn't sound
it's
like.
mostly a commitment of yours.
I understand that, and I'm willing to do that. I have no problem doing that if we can help some neighborhoods out. Absolutely.
And we can become a member without approval of the grant.
Correct.
These are not
They're not
associated.
correct. You can become a member without even getting the grant.
Hopefully we get the grant. Any other questions for Sarah, or? I want to make a motion.
Move to approve to become a member of Johns Hopkins Cities of Service Coalition.
Thank you, sir. And Mark, all right, we have a motion and a second. We will call the question. Passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate all your hard work. All righty, item 6, consideration of an ordinance relating to Shawnee Film and Music Office, amending Chapter 8 of the Shawnee Municipal Code, Article 10 of Chapter 8, filming registration regulations, let's see, 8.596 and 8.598, providing for repeal, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for emergency clause, and I bet Stacy's up. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you, gentlemen. First item is kind of boring. We found a typo in the film registration process that you all approved a couple months ago. When the clerk's office went back through it, they found something that we all missed, so we are adding just a few words to that section. When the state film and music office looked over the ordinance, they suggested we reduce our time frame from 60 days to 45 days, that the film will allow us to work with them before they come to Shawnee. That seems like a reasonable request as well, so since we had to come back to you for the small change, we came back with 2, so we don't have to do this again anytime soon, hopefully. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but you've already looked at this, and I know that, like I said, that it's just basically a typo and a time change.
Simple. Got anything?
I'll make a motion.
All righty.
We approve the change,
Thank you, sir.
correcting our language.
Thank you, sir. It was an omission.
And I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, and you are up, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance relating to the Shawnee Film and Music Office, amending Chapter 8 of the Shawnee Municipal Code, Article 10 of Chapter 8, Filming Registration Regulations, Sections 8-596 and Section 8-598, providing for repeal, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for emergency clause.
All righty, so we have a motion and a second. We will call the question. And motion passes 6-0. All righty. Item 7, acknowledgement of Shawnee. Oh,
Do we need a separate motion on the emergency clause?
That's correct.
that we do. Thank you
Move to
for
approve
catching
emergency
that.
clause.
second.
All righty, we have motion and second on the emergency clause, so we will call the question. Thank you for catching that. And that passes 6-0. So now we're at item 7, acknowledgement of Shawnee becoming an Oklahoma film-friendly certified community. And Stacy's still up.
So no action needs to be taken, but I just wanted to point out to the commission that we're bearing fruits from your labor at this point. We were officially notified that we have become a film-friendly certified community. We're one of just a few in the state. The others are El Reno and Broken Arrow. We are one of a few that has a film and music office. The others are Tulsa and the Cherokee Nation and El Reno. So we're in good company there, and excited to see the film industry booming in both Oklahoma and in Shawnee. We've had several crews in since we talked last. We've got several that are in the hopper, either waiting to come or looking at us again. So it's exciting to see that industry growing here as well. I wanted. Oh.
No, go ahead, finish.
I get asked about that, if that's a gig industry and people aren't going to be employed. One of the people that I work with uses the analogy of the construction business, and I think that's a good way to explain that. So when we build a house, we have a bunch of professionals that come together and do their job. We hire a tile person and a yard guy, and we have all those different trades come together to finish the project, and then they go on to the next project. And that's really how the film business is working in Oklahoma as well. We've got professional people who come in, they do their job on that project, then they move on to the next project. So the statistic is in 21, so even with COVID, 3,960 folks were employed by the film business in Oklahoma.
We just had the film done there, part of it on Main Street, and that was very impressive to watch. Phyllis and I got to go be extras one day when they were down at Hamburger King, and I was extremely impressed with how professional they were and how many of them there were. And I know they were all staying here and staying in hotels and eating here and spending lots of money here. It also amazed me how far these people had come to Oklahoma. I know the girl that was, the lead in the movie, she was from Toronto. The guy that was the lead was, I think, from the LA area. The guy that was the director was from Australia. And I mean, it just went on and on. So, I mean, it was a big time deal. It really was. And it was amazing to watch and a lot of fun to participate in. So I think it's a great thing for for Shawnee. So, and we're going to get a lot of good publicity out of it, so.
It's an even bigger
Good thing.
platform for us to talk about and
Absolutely.
show how wonderful Shawnee really is.
Yeah, they said that was small budget, $350,000, which is still a lot of money in my movie. That was, I guess, considered small, but they're spending a lot of money to make it. Very good. Anybody got anything else for Stacy? Well, we got her. Yes, not. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's a good step. All righty. Item 8, consideration to authorize staff to purchase a John Deere tractor at the state bid price of $142,000 from P&K Equipment. And it says Brad, but it looks a whole lot
It
more.
does, but I'm not going
like
to throw
Rick.
Brad under the bus because I made a unilateral decision on this one, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. We have a tractor that's been in our inventory for some time. It was badly damaged previously in a storm, and we tried to repair it, but as it turns out, there's only one of our crew who can satisfactorily or even safely operate the thing that's so damaged. I took it out of service.
Yep.
This is a core service issue, and I'm asking to approve a new tractor and more.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions on?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All righty. Then Travis, we have a motion and a second, so we'll call the question. Passes 6-0, Mr. Area. You have a new tractor now.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
You betcha. All righty. Item 9, consider bids. Resurface of West Independence Street and North Leo Street Industrial Access Corridor open. Seth, how are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. So as you can see, we only received one bid for the North Leo Street resurfacing project. So just as a reminder, Ryan, there we go. It's kind of hard to see over there, but I did put together a little exhibit so you guys could take a peek if you're curious. Budget-wise, this was previously approved. It was part of the fiscal year 22 budget, and it has two separate funding agreements in place, one with the county and one with ODOT. It's a resurfacing project, so for the most part, we're just overlaying the road. We're not completely reconstructing it. If you can make it out in the exhibit, the blue part is the base bid. That's North Leo, and then it turns into West Independence there. So it's pretty much everything north of the spur, south of 177, right there directly adjacent to George Fisher and Haskell Lemon's yard. And then there's a green line that ends the base bid and goes to the west. That's the alternate. It goes all the way to the west towards Acme Road. So that's kind of the layout of the project. With that, I would read the bids on the record. So we got one bid from Haskell Lemon Construction Company. Their base bid was for $459,002.85. Their ad alternate was for $340,914.20. And with that, staff would ask for you to defer the bid award to a future date. With that, I would answer any questions.
What was the engineer's estimate?
The engineer's estimate was,
Well, I'm sorry, yours in-house. What was the original estimate?
well, the original estimate was put together by ODOT. It was for $330,000, and then our consultant's estimate was right before bid, and it was $335,000, so pretty significantly lower than the bid income. That was the base bid, by the way. The alternate estimate was for $318,741.53.
Okay, thanks.
Question. So what you're asking for us to do is to defer then to
Yes,
a
sir.
future meeting?
Yes, sir.
Move to defer to a future meeting.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
All righty. Travis. 6, okay, so we have a motion and a second to defer to a future meeting on item 9, so we'll call the question. And that passes 6-0. So item 10 is new business. Any new business? No new business, all righty. Item 11 is commissioner comments. Mr. Weaver, you want to start on your end?
Sure. I just have one question, and City Manager, you may or may not be on top of this, and Brad, you probably are. But the previous city commissioner said that the no parking signs on Main Street had been printed and were ready. Can we get an answer as to when those will be installed and when we'll have those in place?
No parking or 2-hour parking?
2-hour parking, I'm sorry, thank you for that. Yeah,
don't say
2-hour parking signs.
I knew what you meant.
Be delivered this week, late this week.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Just thank you again, staff, for continuing to work to keep us going in the right directions. I'm always am impressed with the fact that when we see blatant things, we pause and say, hey, we need to do this again. And so I actually thank you for that. And also thank you, sir, for taking something out of commission that could not only probably wasn't doing its job well, but could injure one of our employees. And so I appreciate that. I know that's a lot of money to spend, but it's far less than what it would take to replace an employee that got injured by a dangerous piece of equipment. So thank you for stepping forward and doing that. I wish Miss Dane was still here to hear this. I had worked with her in several different instances, and she is very impressive. And goodness, 3 weeks ago, she found out about this, and so this was not something that we, had sitting around that we just decided to go on. It just landed on us that long ago, and she was able to pull a pretty impressive presentation and get the application going. That's something to acknowledge, and just so. Just wanted to do that, so thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Want to remind everybody, coming up August the 28th, Saturday, from noon to 4, will be our Cops and Kids at the Expo Center. We missed that last year, so this year's going to be, I think we've got some really cool things planned for that. So hopefully see everybody at noon on Saturday the 28th.
My turn, huh?
Your turn.
I'm glad to see some movement on the expo. We're making some improvements on some roofs and some stuff that's been needed for a while.
Yep.
That's about all I had. Kenny?
Well, there's a lot going on at different levels of staff, and I appreciate that. And I want to say good work to Brad and his group on the street department for jumping on 45th Street between Hardesty Drive and Pottinger eastbound. Anytime we get a 1/4 inch of rain, the potholes pop up, and everybody's driving the wrong direction on the street and all. So they got out there and worked several days and have gotten it taken care of. Appreciate it.
All righty, that leaves me. So, Eric, welcome back to Shawnee, your first meeting with us.
Pleasure to be here, Mr.
This
Mayor.
time around. Want to also thank you and Brad for you guys jumping on 45th Street so quickly. As Commissioner Salter said, even though it was a little rough over there, and we heard about it from a few folks, and you guys jumped right on it, and it is a whole lot better than it was. And that's not the easiest thing to do, is be out there, and that was some of our hottest days so far this summer when they're out there laying that asphalt. And I know that couldn't have been a whole lot of fun, but I know people appreciate that street being a lot smoother than it was. So thank you guys so much for all the hard work. That's probably about all I've got tonight. I agree with what you said about Sarah. She is a hard worker. You know what, those things get dropped in your lap very quickly with very short deadlines quite often, when someone finds one of those and then gets it, calls your attention to it to work on it. So she is really good at getting that stuff done. And that is all I have. So we are adjourned, and we are going to go to the Shawnee Municipal Authority. So item 1, we will consider the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to approve, and we will call the question. And that passes 6-0. Do we have any new business?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So we are adjourned, and we will go to the Shawnee Airport Authority. Item 1 is consider approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
And Mark. All righty, so we have a motion to approve, and we have a second. We'll call the question. There we go. And that passes 6-0. So any new business?
Nothing to add, sir.
All righty, so item 3 is discussion, consideration, and possible action to enter into executive session in accordance with 25 OS 307B 3 and 4 to discuss this, easy for me to say, to discuss the purchase of or appraisal of real property and confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body and advice of its attorney determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest, specifically regarding the KSNL proposal for utilization of airport property. So we are looking for a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to enter in executive session.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
second.
And Darren. All righty, we have a motion and a second. We will call the question. And item passes 6-0, so we will go down the hallway now. We'll be back. back? All righty, so we are back from executive session. So item 4, consider matters discussed in executive session in accordance with 25 OS Section 307B3 and 4, and discuss the purchase or appraisal of real property and confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action if the public body, with the advice of its attorney, determines that disclosure will seriously impair the ability of the public body to process the claim or conduct a pending investigation, litigation, or proceeding in the public interest, specifically regarding the KSNL proposal for utilization of airport property. So, is there any discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we reject the proposal from KSNL Aero.
Okay, so we have
I'll second.
motion and a second. And we will call the question. And that motion passes 6-0. And we are adjourned.